Welcome to Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Jessie, the host of this podcast, which is all about beverage innovation. I talk with innovation pioneers from agriculture to glass. This week, I'm speaking with Andrew Nelson, managing partner of WarRoom Cellars. We had a blast on this podcast. We talk about big business ideas and strategies, but have fun with storytelling, tell a couple of jokes, and even a funny tale. We tasted four amazing wines. He is from Ojai, California, and his background is deep in the viticulture side of the business before he started WarRoom Cellars. He worked for Diageo as a Vineyard Manager, as well as procurement and sourcing grapes through his grower relations manager role. He started WarRoom Cellars to acquire declining legacy brands that may need a little attention or rebranding and turn them around for growth. WarRoom Cellars has a unique, repeatable, and proven process to revitalize and restore heritage wine brands. Their slogan is all for wine and wine for all. Andrew is all in on Bonnie Doone's Le Cigar orange wine, which he is up for sending out for samples to taste. You can reach him at andrew@warroomcellars.com. Thank you for listening, and be sure to subscribe to be notified of all new episodes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Jessie, and I've got Andrew Nelson here. So excited, Andrew, to finally connect with you and get you on the podcast. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm excited. We've got four wines we're gonna try. I've got a backdrop of the Bonnie Doon, alien. I'm super psyched. This is a fun one.
The aliens have I think we've sent out over 1,000 Bonnie Doon aliens now.
Really?
Yeah, they're very popular during Halloween, and I think
yes,
they terrify children and dogs all over the world. The Bonnie Doon concept is about exploration. Wine exploration, so unique grape varieties, unique winemaking methods, and alien spacecraft. So
I love that.
And if any of your listeners would like a Bonnie Doon alien, I'm glad to send them one. If they email me or message, we send them all over the place. So
that's great. We've had a lot of fun, as you know. Because when you sent me one, I set it up in the living room, and when my wife came out of her office, she looked at it and was like, "What is this?"
Yeah, what was the initial reaction?
She was like, just like, "Oh my gosh, what is this? And why is this in our living room?"
Okay, so
and then
we initially set it up. We did it was an idea from our California distributor. From Chambers and Chambers, and the idea was National UFO Day. It's like June 22nd or June 24th. There's a National UFO Day. So several years ago, we created this alien for in-store point of sales, but it's much more popular with people's homes. I see them in stores, but more often they're in like children's nurseries or like someone's office at home. They're hilarious.
You doing the friendly alien?
Yeah, I sent them to some friends, and they'll like put it in the bathroom.
Oh, that's funny. I put it in front of our door and tried to scare my nephews coming in. And
awesome.
It's fun to it's kind of fun to put in the window. In fact, I was going to send ours to some friends, and you're like, no, just send me their address. I'll send them one.
Oh, good.
So it was
Did
really
that happen?
fun.
Did we send it to them?
Yeah,
oh,
you did. They got it. And they have little, so they just loved it.
When you get these aliens to your house, we have a message on them. And so it says something like, greetings, earthlings of Ott, right, Jessie Ott. Greetings and salutations, and thank you for your support of our species Vitis vinifera, or fermented species Vitis vinifera.
That is awesome.
It's very, on brand. It's Dune speak.
Dune speak. I like it. Well, speaking of Bonnie Doon, should we start with one of our four tastings today?
Sure. Yeah, I have the Bonnie Doon orange wine. We believe
the
future is bright orange. And kind of a fun start. I don't know how many people can see, but I'm kind of holding up the color and the bottle there. So orange wine, I think a lot of people may think it's made from oranges. There are no oranges in this. Orange wine is when you take white grapes and ferment them with skin contact. So you ferment white grapes on their skins, just like you would a red grape variety. And the outcome is a wine that has a kind of a really pretty orange, almost like tangerine color.
Yeah.
And on the nose, it's 11:30 here, but this does smell awesome. So it's white peach, nectarine, tangerine.
Nectarine, 100%. Yeah.
And just like leaping out of the glass. And then on the palate, you get just a little bit of that structure, just a slight tannin, like from a red wine. I'll go ahead and taste it.
You can even smell the structure of it being a little bit thicker and heavier. Like it just kind of smells like not age, but like there's more to the story than just being
I get almost like kind of a peach fuzz characteristic. There's just this little nice structure, bright acidity, lots of fruit. So this is 3 grapes. It's Grenache Blanc and Grenache Gris that are both fermented on their skins for like 12 to 14 days.
Okay, and then that's not very long.
The third grape is Orange Muscat, which is not fermented on its skin, about 10% Orange Muscat or so. And that just gives it this really nice pop, orange marmalade, all fermented dry. I think that we're like 10.5% alcohol here. Yeah, really low. These grapes are picked very early, between like 17 and 20 bricks. So very low. And then fermented in a rotary fermenter with these paddles inside. So it's this very gentle extraction. This is the second year that we've made orange wine. This is the 2022 vintage, and it's our fastest growing of all of our wines. This is the fastest growing, and it's about $15 for orange. Have you tasted orange before?
I have not.
I
have not tasted it.
Have you heard of orange before, or is this the first?
Yeah. And I've heard it on a podcast too. When I had Chris on from he's a WSET level 1 through 4. Really
cool.
He has an educational program for WSET.
Oh, awesome.
Chris Scott from the UK. He and his wife Jane have an amazing program. If you're ever going to take WSET level anything, make sure you go to 3050 and use their education platform. It's amazing. But when I asked him about the trends, he said absolutely 100% orange wine is coming.
Yeah, it's incredible.
100%.
We're like all in on it. We made a little over 3,000 cases of the 21 vintage. It's the Bonnie Doon Le Cigare Orange, the orange cigar, a flying cigar.
Yes.
And then in 22 we made a little over 12,000 cases, and both sold out in months. The 22 in about 9 months, and this year the 23 vintage, we're making somewhere just south of 30,000 cases of orange wine, which I think it may be a little bit reckless, but we've just never seen such demand for a wine. But usually it's a really slow build. You start at 3 and then you get to 5 and then to 7. And, 5 years later you're over 10,000 cases. And we really want Bonnie Doon to be the first, the entry, the category benchmark. So for the listeners, if you've never tasted an orange wine, try Bonnie Doon. If you've never tasted one before, you don't have to know anything about orange wine. And I love sending samples out. So again, if the listeners email me, I will send them samples. Can you put my email in the bio or something?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Andrew at WarRoomCellars.com. So and the category,
you might be sorry you did that.
there's many different styles. So some of the orange wines that we tried to just taste every orange wine we could find. And some have gone through secondary fermentation, so they're resinous and weighty, and some have like real extended time on the skins, so it's quite tannic. And I think that's something that's so exciting about the category. There really isn't a defined style yet, and so we're hoping to define it with Bonnie Doon, with this very fresh, peach and almost tropical nose, slight structure, really bright, juicy acidity, low alcohol.
Yep, every bit of all of that. No, it's great, and the color. I don't know if
Yeah.
My camera makes it. It looks like it might be a little bit lighter on the camera because it's really nice
is mine
orange.
coming through?
Yeah. Yours comes through a little bit better.
It's orange.
Yeah, it's orange.
Also kind of interestingly, the like, what's the alien association? So the Bonnie Doon brand is, I just think, such a delightful brand. It was founded in the early 80s by just an icon in the wine industry, by Randall Graham. He's like the Willy Wonka of wine. I was texting with him earlier. I learned about.
Oh, you were?
I'm a Randall fan, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, he's like your guide to the Dooniverse. And in the early 80s, Randall discovered these laws in France, in Châteauneuf-du-Pape. There was a mayor in the town of Châteauneuf-du-Pape in the 50s who was afraid that alien spacecraft, UFOs, would land in the vineyards and do damage. And the French term for UFO is le cigare volant, the flying cigar. And so this mayor, he passed these ordinances, these laws, and they were very successful. So there were no more alien sightings. And
no more alien sightings, just by putting it out in the universe and putting it in law.
I think there was
because aliens read that law.
Absolutely. When was the last time you saw an alien spacecraft in the vineyard? And I imagine
it's been a minute.
There was probably some drug use going on at the time that these laws were being passed. But Randall found these, thought it was delightful, and then launched kind of the flagship Bonnie Doon wine, Le Cigare Volant, which is a Grenache blend, kind of an homage to Châteauneuf-du-Pape and the alien laws. And so we've just really leaned into aliens and exploration and, unique grape varieties and winemaking methods. So it's a really fun brand.
It is fun. That's a great story. I'm so glad you took us through that, because that's a fun telling story for people to learn and understand about where it came from and what a cool story it is. And it's amusing. I mean, it's fun.
It's one of my favorite parts of the wine business. The stories of the brand, the stories of the people behind the brand.
100%. That's the one thing that you've kind of fallen in love with about wine, is because it's more of a hand sell. It's more of a storytelling. Because there's just so much out there, you have to kind of stand out, and any kind of story like that certainly, separates you from
really
others.
Have to stand out. So what I was listening to the episode you did with Brian Rosen. I'm a Brian Rosen fan too.
Yeah, everybody's a Brian Rosen fan. He's
like working out at 5:30 in the morning.
I know, he's on the treadmill talking. Yeah, it's so great. I love that. So I've talked about that with other people too.
And fact check me on this one, but there's 11,000 wineries now, and there's like 800 distributors. And 20, 30 years ago, there was only 3,000 wineries, and there was about 3,000 distributors. So we've gone from like a 1-to-1 to, a much worse ratio. So along the lines of really standing out, we try to really scream off of the shelf to as we taste through, you'll see our packaging, we really try to evoke emotion. Our strategy at WarRoom, our strategy, we're 6 years old. The first 5 years, we were just trying not to go out of business. But
that's what it is, though.
This year, we've really tried to hone in on what is our strategy, where do we fit into the wine industry, and our strategy is to acquire declining legacy wine brands and then reposition them by focusing on what customers love.
Nice.
And we define our customers as distributors, accounts, and consumers, three very different customers, distributors, accounts, and consumers.
Yep.
And so then we will acquire a legacy wine brand. Sometimes it's almost out of the market. Sometimes it's gone entirely. Sometimes it's just in decline, or kind of it's known, but it's not growing. And then we'll really try to focus in on what will delight those three customers, the distributors, the accounts, and the consumers. And then we'll relaunch the brand. Sometimes it looks totally different. It's a revolution. It's a new brand with the same name. Or sometimes we will kind of evolve the brand. In the case of Bonnie Doon, where we're really trying to hone in on what do people love about this? And the exploration aspect is really kind of where we settled. And aliens.
Yeah.
So kind of a unique strategy. We don't own any. We don't own a winery. We don't own any vineyards. We crush grapes, right around 2,000 tons or so each year in California, across 3 or 4 facilities. We make wine in Washington State. We import a little bit. We're a team of 11 people now, very production and brand focused, and we work with a network of, probably over 100 small and mid-sized wholesalers now with our brands. So
great,
unique strategy, but it is good fun, and we love the brand.
It is good fun.
Really honing in on those brand stories.
So how do you find those brands, and what is the qualifications for you guys to even kind of, look at a brand?
Sure. Well, initially in the early days, I would cold call. I would literally call facilities or brands. I would look through distributor. You can go on distributor websites and see who they represent. And I would kind of look for stuff that, I know that brand, but I haven't seen it in a while. And I would say that didn't work. If you cold call someone saying that you're looking to buy something from them, it often becomes very expensive.
Yeah.
So initially, our first brand acquisition was a brand called Lapis Luna. It was launched in the late 90s, and it had kind of hung in the 3,000 to 5,000 case range. And I had worked with the founder in a previous venture, and we'd both been fired together on the same day.
Oh,
in a blaze. No, it turned into a wonderful gift. I think everybody should.
They often do.
You should be fired.
They often do.
Once, maybe just once. But so Bruce had founded Lapis Luna, and basically the brand had existed, but it didn't have someone just bleeding the brand. It didn't have someone really focused on what does the brand stand for. So there has to be a really strong brand champion. Someone has to just love the brand. The original package on Lapis Luna looked like this. I don't know how many watchers there are, but it's a very classic white label with the Lapis Luna with the little moon kind of watermark, and then moon eyes written in a very nice font. It's a kind of a classic white label, and we relaunched with essentially a totally new brand.
Totally.
This artwork.
It's really
you have
cool.
The cab front. I'm holding up the cab here.
And the cab.
So this artwork is from the early 1600s. Each label shows a faceless hero reaching for the moon. And then on the back, our hero, she's holding a burning heart with a message. The perfect time to start never arrives. So think about that.
This is very true.
Have children today. Start that business.
Don't wait till tomorrow.
To start never arrives. Anyway, so the concept of inspiration, and then so that's kind of how we found Lapis. It was through relationships, and then with Bonnie Doon, I actually got a phone call. I got a LinkedIn message actually from the general manager at Bonnie Doon, Rick Flowerday, super cool guy. And he said, I heard that you can sell wine and raise money, and I'd like to talk to you. And neither of those were, I was like decent, but certainly not successful, right? I'd just been fired.
Fake it till you make it, man. Fake it till you make it.
And I was very sad, and I don't know what to do. My wife Erica was pregnant at the time, and I was unemployed and just very sad. And so I went and I met with Rick, and I love the Bonnie Doon brand, and
everybody loves Bonnie Doon. It's like a closed circle cult,
Yeah, the Dooniverse,
100%.
The Dooniverse.
The Dooniverse. It is.
And so I kind of went back and forth with Rick, and I didn't know quite what I was going to do yet. This is before starting WarRoom. WarRoom Cellars, all for wine, wine for all. And essentially put like a plan together. They were making a lot of wine. There was lots and lots of wines, delightful. But my suggestion was, bring focus to it, go down to 4, maybe 5 wines. From many, and have a slogan, and really focus on a clear message to the distribution network, line price them, and then Rick said, you should buy Bonnie Doon. And I was like, wow, how would I do that? That sounds awesome. And he was like, so try to
sign me up,
money and make an offer. And so I called one of my business partners now, and Dawn, and an investment banker, Perry, who I think is the most powerful person in the wine industry. And so we made an offer.
Nice.
And it didn't go through. But 3 years later, after starting WarRoom, at that point we were able to acquire Bonnie Doon. So long-winded answer. The question that you had was, how are you finding the brands? Most often, the brands are finding us through relationships, through just kind of the network.
Relationships, yeah.
This is my 16th harvest in the wine industry, and part of my favorite part is the relationships and the networking. I'm on the phone most of the day. And that sometimes will lead to, you never know quite in the beginning, but oftentimes if I look at the brands that we've acquired, all of them have started from some relationship. And, I never could have predicted that it would have gone to or led to a brand being acquired. So the suggestion to the listeners would be, cultivate relationships and take lots of phone calls.
Just keep going, keep the momentum going. I think, it's I'm sure many other industries are still kind of relationship businesses, but I don't see this one really ever getting away from that. And when you think about it, through your distribution networks to even to the restaurants and retailers, those are all relationships that you've cultivated over time, which is why the distribution partners are so important, because they have the people that are really developing those relationships on the street every single day.
Well said. Really well said. I've never worked in another industry, so I don't know. But I think I think agriculture kind of has that. There's like this long-term, nothing happens quickly. There are good years, there are bad years, and so ultimately the relationship. Interestingly, okay, so we're going to taste the Cab Franc later. If you flip the Cabernet Franc, I read the quote on the back of the Lapis Luna Cabernet label. On the back of the Cabernet Franc, it says, "Hard times always reveal true friends."
True friends.
Where we found that. We'll test these kind of on the Lapis Luna Instagram. But that's kind of like the wine business.
It's so
the wine
true.
Business can be very hard.
Yeah.
And anybody trying to make it in the wine business, I am rooting for. The rising tide lifts all boats. So
that's exactly it. I mean, even spirit brands are tough, or RTDs, or anything in this space is difficult. I was interviewing Stephanie Houston, who has she's the first Latina owned rum distillery in Texas and beyond. And so, yeah, she was saying that someone told her it takes $5 million to launch a brand properly, like a distilled brand. And she's like, yeah, we started with $61,000.
I don't know if I've never launched a distilled brand, but I know most people that launch wine brands don't have any money.
Don't have 5 million. Yeah. Well, and it may not be, all at once. It may be incremental because if you do get those hits, you're going to have the money to produce, right? And ship and all that kind of stuff.
It's so interesting though. Like if you just gave someone $5 million and said, go launch a wine brand or a spirits brand, and they hadn't done it before, that money could be blown very, very fast. And so I think it's the trials and the pain and the obstacles, the failures of not having any cash and really trying to be effective with scarce resources that are essential to the journey. If you think of like the super well funded, it's an interesting comment. So how long has the rum business been in business?
I can't remember. I think it's 5 or 6, maybe a little bit longer years. And she's now kind of set up in RNDC now here in Texas and Louisiana. So she's ready to grow now. So she's at this point where, okay, I've done my early work. I've got the branding. It's now time to grow. Yeah. I'm excited for her, but it's hard. It's really hard. And when you think about wine, though, and this is something I've mentioned on the podcast before, it's a little embarrassing, but you don't think about wine as being an agricultural product, but it really is. You have a harvest. You can only grapes, as they come through every year. Whereas, of course, for spirits, you use grains and there's harvest and all that kind of stuff, but it's not the same. Yes, it's agricultural, but you don't view it as that in that sense as you do for a winery, because if you're a winery and you do own all this land with all these vineyards, you got to sell all that. You can't just keep it. Right? So you usually just buy raw materials.
I had a really fun it was kind of a high impact conversation with our director of winemaking, with Nicole Walsh, a fantastic winemaker. Last night I was driving home and she's what's today? November 9th. It's a very late season, right? The 2023 vintage is much later, up to like 3 weeks or more later in some areas. And
I was wondering how it went this year.
The quality has been awesome, but it's been a very condensed harvest. It's basically stuff that we would normally pick early, we picked later, and the stuff that we would pick later is kind of being picked like right on time as a necessity. So it's a condensed harvest, and that creates opportunity. So there's tons of opportunity for growth. But she called and said, she's thinking about. She's calling to pick on some Paso Robles Cabernet, and she's worried about frost. It's early November. Frost is a concern, but the way to combat frost is with overhead sprinkler protection or fans. But the most common is as long as you keep the water moving on the grape materials, it won't freeze the latent heat of the moving water. Thank you, Cal Poly. But so she's saying, what's better? Do we risk a frost and just harvest tomorrow morning, or do we do the overhead protection and bring in wet fruit? And I was like, what a fascinating question. I don't know. We're making phone calls. We called my buddy Paul up in Napa, and he asked a bunch of super technical questions, and he's like, well, the equipment won't be able to get in if how many hours of frost protection are we talking about? And it's like this very in-depth agricultural discussion that we're talking about. It was awesome. I was having fun. Ultimately,
well, that leads to innovation, right? Yeah. It leads to something new. That's exciting.
On the answer of no frost protection. Pick it right away. And so we'll see how it turns out. But definitely an agricultural product at the core. And the closer you can be to the vineyard, I think the better. It's easy, particularly for me, to get like deep into the business aspect, which I love as well. But spreadsheets and strategy. But really, the closer you can get to the vineyard, the closer you can have the salespeople come to the vineyard and spend time just in the vines, the better. It's ironic that I would say that 100%. We don't own any vineyards, but we're very focused.
But you're close enough. Yeah, you're close enough to where you're sourcing the grapes that you feel like it's a part of your culture and what you're doing. And I'm sure you talk to the growers throughout the season and, are very close to them. I was up in Yukon, which I think is
yesterday.
Great.
Tasting through the lots and meeting with the growers. And those multi-generational relationships are really cool.
So let's get another line going. I don't know which one.
Let's go to Washington State. Let's do the Skyfall Merlot. So Where's Bonnie Doon was launched in 1983, and then we acquired it in 2020 and repositioned it as Exploration. Skyfall is a younger brand. This was launched in 2014, and I have kind of the original package here. Again, very classic, white label. This is the original here, and then the rebrand. Pretty revolutionary. So the concept with Skyfall is resiliency. Washington State is a very difficult area to grow grapes. There's snow. There's no water in eastern Washington. Despite what the image of Washington is, at least in my head, is rainy Seattle.
Yeah.
But the moment you get over the Cascade Mountain Range onto the eastern side of the state, it's a desert. And there's 4 to 6 inches of rain a year, in comparison to Napa, which would get 25 to 36 or so. People would debate me, but I'll stand by that. There's no soil in Washington State. The soil on the eastern side, the soil has been eroded away by glacial floods, hundreds of thousands of years ago. So there's just this fine powder of dust that's kind of blown in called loess. That loess soil can't support phylloxera or any kind of like root louses, the pests for the vine. So many of the vines are planted on their own roots. There's fires. It's like It's just a gnarly area to grow grapes. But from these very harsh growing conditions comes the resiliency of the vine and just the beauty, like really beautiful fruit. So and then kind of everything on the package speaks to Washington State.
It looks
Hope
great.
For the future is the state motto, which is kind of fun. But Washington Merlot, I'm a Merlot fan. I know that there's kind of some there's a movie and there's all kinds of talk of Merlot, but Merlot from Washington State, I think, is just beautiful. It has this kind of blueberry characteristic and a minerality to it. Blueberry, boysenberry.
The nose is like you can tell there's a lot of flavor, and there's you can kind of smell the higher alcohol, which is probably part of that 15% cab. But it almost smells like a pure cab.
It has kind of
it's not it's fruit. Not a it's not a Merlot from Bordeaux where you get the silky silkier style, but this is bold and like jammy and yummy, and it smells amazing.
Agree. There's a kind of a savory characteristic, like umami, kind of like a little soy saucy. The Washington State Merlot. Obviously, I'm biased to Skyfall, the resilience of Washington State, but to the listeners, definitely taste Washington State Merlot. I just think it's such an awesome expression. Smaller berries, thicker skin, so you get darker concentration, but you get really bright acidity, so it's still juicy.
Fuller flavor. Yeah. We always at St. Michel wanted to have sideways, but have it be Washington Syrah. Because Merlot and Syrah are really, really wonderful from the state of Washington.
Agreed.
Well, Rieslings. I mean, you got to give Rieslings its due, but in terms of reds, to me, those are two really amazing grapes
well. There's an
from the state of
old
Washington.
Syrah joke. I recently found out that this joke is from the early to mid '80s. I'd be interested if anybody heard it before then. So it may be slightly inappropriate, but I'm going to tell it anyway. You can edit it out if you want to.
It's okay. This is not made for kids.
What's the difference between syphilis and Syrah? You can get rid of a case of syphilis. You can't sell a case of you can't get rid of a case of Syrah. It's like a wine joke. The joke goes over really well in a sales setting, but the moment you tell that joke with non-wine people, I think they don't think it's as funny. But
yeah,
and the word case I think is very important. Funny. Well, you can get rid of the case. Anyway.
That's a good one. That's really funny. So we haven't talked about you at all. So while we're tasting this one, let's just back up real quick. So where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Santa Margarita, from beautiful Santa Margarita, California. Most people probably haven't heard of that town. It's just south of Paso Robles, just north of San Luis Obispo. We're basically right in the heart of the central coast of California. 3 hours north is San Francisco, and 3 hours south is LA. And I'm in a log.
Nice, right smack in the middle. I see that it looks like a log cabin. It looks really cool, cozy. Yeah. And where are you from?
I'm from a little further south here, from Southern California, from a town called Ojai in Ventura County. Mm-hmm. Ojai is a Chumash Indian word that means the nest, and it's kind of a rare valley. It runs east-west, and the thought is that it harnesses this kind of loving, creative energy, a vortex in Ojai. The people from Ojai, we're a little
that's
out
cool
there for sure, but we we're trying to do positive in the world. So my parents moved out when I was 2, and my brother I don't know where was Evan born in Ojai. I got to ask them that. My brother runs all the sales, so we work together. He's just in the next room over. But I grew up in Ojai, California.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So how did you get your way into the business?
It started with beer, actually. I was into brewing beer. I've always loved alcohol from a young age, and you can make beer before you can buy it. You can buy the ingredients, and so started brewing beer. And I went to Cal Poly. I went to college here in San Luis Obispo, and I was agricultural business, and this was before Cal Poly had a enology and viticulture, winemaking and grape growing major, which they do now. It's a great major. But they had a minor, so I was ag business and enology and viticulture as a minor, and I did my internship, my harvest in 2007 at Edna Valley. I don't even think I was 21 at the time. I was 20 or 21. I don't think I was. And I got the bug walking around with the winemakers and tasting each of the tanks, and just hearing them talk about what they were worried about and what flavors, and some of it was delicious and some of it was disgusting, and they're worried about this one, they're not worried about this one, and like, what's going on here? I fell in love with it. And so then a buddy of mine and we planned an endless harvest. And for the listeners, particularly any of the younger ones, absolutely do a harvest abroad. Our plan was Greece, Austria, South Africa, New Zealand, and then back to California. And I went to Greece, and then I came back. I'd fallen in love with a Cal Poly girl. I regret not continuing on with him. But so I went to Greece. I made Retsina, which is a pine sap infused white wine. Yeah,
interesting.
Yep. It's a very traditional Greek wine. You basically ferment. The grape is called Sabatiano. It's a delightful kind of an aromatic white grape, and you ferment it on pine sap. Chunks of it. You shovel it into the tank. And it tastes kind of like you poured a little bit of Listerine into your Chardonnay. So I never really loved it, but it was a biodynamic vineyard, and multi-generational winemaker Dimitri Yorgas family. It was awesome. So really cool cultural experience there. And then I came back and I worked for a winery called Four Vines here in Paso. And the Four Vines, the winemaker there, and basically the whole team, they were doing wine marketing like I'd never seen before. The wines were delicious, but the marketing in particular was just aggressive. And the wine club was the Zin Bitches. And the packaging would be, there was a bottle called the Peasant, and it had a silk screen, like a printed bottle with a peasant dumping a barrel of wine down on himself. And it said, "Temperance, like chastity, is its own punishment." And I was like, oh man. It didn't say anything about the wine. It didn't say the name. It was like, this is awesome. So I got it work there.
This is bold.
And I really got the marketing bug. Just an awesome place. And it's still one of my favorite brands. And then I got kind of my first real wine job up in Napa with Diageo, with a big wine company, and I was on the grape purchasing side, so I was buying grapes for the various wineries, kind of on the procurement side, and then went into vineyard management, managing some hillside vineyards, and trying to speak Spanish. And then I came back down to the Central Coast and did kind of my first entrepreneurial venture. I was a sweat equity guy in a rabble wine company. A rabble is a disorderly mob pushing the public to think differently. And I love that. But that's where I got fired. And I was sad, and then I got into Stoicism and Marcus Aurelius and vermouth, and so started WarRoom Cellars, all for wine, wine for all, almost 6 years ago, in January 2nd of 2018 was when we started the company, and then did our first acquisition. Nice. Like mid that year. I think it was like June, July of 18. Yeah.
Nice. And the rest, they say, is history. So you said that the first wine that you actually bought was the Lapis Luna
first brand
wines?
That we acquired. Yes.
Brand. Yeah. Okay. Do we want to try that?
Yeah. The Cab Franc.
Cab Franc now?
That's great. Okay, so Cabernet Franc, this is actually a reserve. Oh, so just to give you some pricing, the Bonnie Doon Orange was the first one, $15 retail. The Skyfall Washington State Merlot, $17, $18, $19, sub 20, just above 15. The Lapis Reserve Cabernet Franc, about 18, 19. We really focus on that 12 to 20. And okay, so Cabernet Franc, I love Cabernet Franc. It can be known for having that kind of pyrazine, that slightly vegetal, but still it can have kind of red pyrazine as well. So this is, interestingly, this is a California Cabernet Franc. We're sourcing from 4 different sites. About half of it comes from Dave Rosenthal's vineyard in Lake County.
Really?
Good stuff.
I love Lake County. I want to discover Lake County awesome. So bad.
And then roughly 25% of it is from Napa, like right around Oakville, a vineyard we can't name.
Okay.
We splurged there.
Sure.
And then Paso Robles, the last 25% is like roughly Paso and Lodi. So we're blending 4 different regions, some of which are very expensive and some of which are more value. And this comes in like right around $20. I think you can usually find it for 17, 18.
Jeez. This smells amazing.
Yeah. Oh, this is rocking. Okay, so this is the 2020 vintage. We bottled about like 3,800 cases of this. Yeah. Okay, so I get the dusty fruit, like just a little of the pyrazine, but and then I get like lilac, lavender.
Yeah, you get some of those dark. Also, you can get some of that dark flavor. I wouldn't call it tobacco,
right
but like that stage right before that.
Yeah, like sage, blackberry, plum. That is rocking.
Yeah, it's like this dark blueberry, blackberry, but like there's it's got this nice spice tannin, to it too,
but like balanced acidity and weight. It's not like a biting tannin, no astringency. The fruit characteristic just keeps going. Yeah, you're right on that, like fruit leather or very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of unusual to be so young and kind of have those notes to it,
So I'm, technically I'm not a winemaker, but I play one on television sometimes. I think a winemaker is like the person calling the picks and choosing the yeast. And I've made wine. Yeah, I've been told to make wine in the cellar. But winemakers, little known fact here that I'll share with the listeners. You can tell the how good a winemaker is by how loudly they can aerate the wine. There's a direct correlation between a winemaker. No.
Really?
But
I was going to say, I can be pretty loud, and I'm not a winemaker.
Maybe the listeners can listen in. So when you aerate, right, you're pulling air through your mouth and through the wine to bring out more flavor. And the winemakers, love to see who can aerate louder. But let's. You want to give it a shot? You want to try to aerate? Go ahead. Okay, I'll go.
I missed that one. I'll do it again. You go first.
How was that? I don't know. I hope it comes through.
That was pretty good.
The recording.
There
you go.
Followed it.
Yeah, I mean the most.
It's way better that way too.
You can hear them from like the next room over. And if you can hear the aeration across, in the next building, you're dealing with a really talented winemaker.
I'm telling you that it tastes better.
Cool.
It tastes better that way. Okay,
that's
so
fun.
Cab Franc, yum. Honestly, these are crazy good pricing for the quality in wine.
Thank you for saying that.
If you want to look for quality, I mean, I don't know if at this price point I've tasted anything better. I mean, just to be quite honest, I mean, you get the nose, you get the structure. Okay, so this is a nerdy thing to do, but sometimes I'll leave a wine overnight in a glass.
Yeah, absolutely.
And try it the next day. I did your Bonnie Doon Rosé for 2 days.
It held
still tasted good. That's when you know the winemaker is awesome and they're doing everything right. Because, a lot of wines are just made to drink when you open them, and not the next day. Because, that's not really normal for most people. But I did it just to check it out. It wasn't really even intentional this time. But I was like, I'm going to try this. Holy smokes, it's still good.
You can tell a lot about the wine as it ages. Even just opening a bottle and tasting it throughout the week is really interesting too. Cool. All right. I'm so happy that you say that.
100%.
The slogan sounds ridiculous, right? All for wine, wine for all. Where did you find that on the Three Musketeers? But you take the mission seriously in that wherever you are in your wine journey, whether you know nothing about wine or you're like a wine geek, we have a wine for you, and at a really accessible price point. So all of our wines, we really focus on like $15, $16, $17, sub 20 for sure.
So, okay, we have one wine left to taste. Do you want to talk about any of the other brands before that?
So
you have the Ruta 22, the Hallmark Channel wines, EPA, and
we do
Bubble Butt.
We make the Hallmark Channel wines, which is good fun. We import wine from Argentina, a Malbec called Ruta 22, and I think Argentina is just awesome, really great value, and the Ruta 22 is $13-14, and I'll put that up against anything.
That's great.
And then the last wine that we're tasting is our Paso Robles. So it's called the Big Red Monster. And if you remember, like, we like slogans and kind of one word. So Bonnie,
I love it.
Yeah.
Bold labels that really tell a story. I mean, you really get kind of a thing going with that, and I think that really helps you stand apart.
We think so too, but we drink our own Kool-Aid, so it's great to hear it from outside. The concept with the Big Red Monster is empowerment. So you've got St. George slaying the dragon there, and the slogan is "Slay It." And what's really unique about this, so this is about 1819. It's Cabernet from Paso Robles, but we're also blending in Petit Verdot and Tannat. Oh, you know what? On this vintage, Petit Syrah and Tannat, or on this bottling, I'll say, this is a non-vintage brand, meaning that we will blend multiple vintages into this bottle. And why? Why would you do that? Well, there's a couple reasons, but we're really trying to delight the customer, right? The distributor, the account, or the consumer. And in this case, we really tried to think about, okay, what is a consumer that's going to buy a bottle of wine called the Big Red Monster going to want? It's kind of a specific consumer. They're probably going to want big, bold flavor, high alcohol, big extraction, balance, but big extraction. And they're not going to be all that concerned with what vintage, what year the grapes were grown in. So, it's like the proclamation of Paso Robles. This is a similar, it's like that prestigious Bell die cut. And it's prestigious heavy glass, 800-gram glass, and slay it. This bottling's a little over 15% alcohol. Paso, for the listeners, I think the best value is in Paso Robles. It's my favorite wine growing region. I live right near here, but I like them all. But Paso, I think, is my favorite. Paso Robles has the largest diurnal temperature difference of any of the California growing regions. That word diurnal means the difference between the hottest part of the day and the coldest part of the night. I actually had a slide in a PowerPoint with a picture of Princess Di and a urinal so that people wouldn't forget. And the room was like crickets. Nobody laughed. And then I went right into the syphilis and Syrah joke and had to leave. But
it was all over.
The biggest diurnal temperature difference, and that the heat gives you these big, bold flavor, blackberry, ripe plum, like big, dark. But the cold nights, that diurnal temperature shift keeps the acidity. So if it's warm at night, the vine will actually pull acid from the grapes. So with this really cold night, it will you'll keep this really bright, juicy acidity. But the best part of Paso is the pricing. The land value in Paso is, significantly cheaper. People would debate me, but Paso Robles, an acre is between like $30,000 and $60,000. Again, people would debate me, but I'll stand by that. Napa, you're seeing $1 million acres. Sonoma, well into the hundreds of thousands. So Paso, you can just get this incredible depth of flavor, big, bold flavors, juicy acidity at, sub $20. Slaying it.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because I smelled this one, which is, you're kind of like your bolder, jamming your fruit kind of nose. And when you compare it to the Merlot from Washington, the Washington smells more like a traditional cab than this one. which is so fascinating, and speaks to the land and the temperatures and the heat and whatnot from the terroir.
Great point, area. Jesse. Great point. Also, the Tannat in here, I'm trying to remember. I think it's like 12-14% Tannat in this Big Red Monster. The Tannat is like squid ink in the cellar. It's super dark and not super fruity, but like tannic and concentrated. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It definitely adds a layer of complexity. So when you smell it, you think you're going to get kind of like this heavy, dark berry sort of Cabernet, and then this undertone of the Tannat really kind of shows through, and then kind of adds like a different structure to it, and then like a different, almost like a different playing field, and then you have this Petite Syrah that has that earthy kind of, flavor profile to it that gives you that tart kind of feeling, which is great because there's like 3 different things going on harmoniously, but you can really taste all 3 different varietals.
Well said. Yeah. And the acid at the end there, right? Like you're kind of left wanting another sip. I think that like real fruity but juicy acidity is really characteristic of Paso and just makes it such a wonderful glass.
Well, it looks like you've got also a 90-point rating.
Yeah. Do you remember who did we put who it was from? Is that the Wine Enthusiast?
There we go. Wine Enthusiast. Yay! Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. No, these are fantastic.
We really try not to live by the scores. We do submit, and we love the Wine Enthusiasts. So Matt Kepman, we're big fans. So that's fun. That's great.
Help if you're on the shelf and people are going this one. It's $1 this, it's $1 that. Oh, it's 90 points versus 80 whatever. Don't have a rating. Okay, it's really kind of more of a shelf game than anything. But this label, with the black and white, it is heavy, and then with the red dragon standing out like it does, it's really awesome. And I know that you guys can't hear it on the podcast, but you can come watch it on YouTube and see the different labels. And I'll certainly have all the links to everything, so everybody can kind of come and can take a look. Do you have a website?
So
each
brand has its own website, but if you go to WarRoomCellars.com. It's a little dated. We're in the process of updating the website currently. I think my brother would cringe that I'm giving the site out. But if you email me, in all seriousness, I throw this out whenever I don't know, not that I'm on podcasts often, but I would, if any of your listeners would like to email Andrew at WarRoomCellars.com and want to taste samples of any of this, I'm glad to. Did you have a favorite, Jesse? Did one of these 4 stand out to you as like your jam?
Well, the orange wine was awesome. That was probably my most unique, but I think it's the Washington Merlot. I love that wine.
Okay, so I'm going to make a prediction. Okay, we can come back and listen in 10 years. But I think in 10 years, when you walk into a grocery store, there will be a red, a white, a pink, and an orange section. I really do.
Yay!
And I'd be interested to hear what Brian Rosen thinks about that.
Okay. Well, we'll have to connect with him on that at some point and see what because now that you say that, I think he's beers and spirits, RTDs. I'm not sure how.
They do an orange wine that I really like. Nomatica is I think within their portfolio, it's a orange in a can. Anybody make an orange. I'm a fan.
Then he sees it.
Kind of the leader in the category, in the orange category, is probably Gerard Bertrand. Who I'm not pronouncing his name correctly. He's kind of the king of pink, moving into orange with his orange gold, which I think is delightful, very nice. And that's about $25. And then there's another really good. There's several really good orange wines out of the Central Coast. One of my favorites is called Skins. by a winemaker named Andrew Jones, just delightful orange wine. And then there's another one here called Orango Tango. Yeah, and
that's fun.
So I kind of think of these names like we're the orange pioneers, and most of the pioneers died. So I'm really hoping that we're in it together and we're building out this orange category. And in the future, when people think of orange wine, I really hope that they think of Bonnie Doon.
I do too. I whatever I can do to help, man. Just let me know. These are awesome. I love it. I'm passionate about what you guys are doing. You've said pioneer, like that's what I'm here for. Talking to you guys that are pioneers doing really cool stuff. That's what's so fun. I'm so glad we got to meet, and I feel like we didn't get to your mentors.
I could leave you with some stuff. So we could
about you or
go. I know I said a kind of a hard 12:30, but if you want to go like another 10, I'm game. Because I kind of wrote down some stuff on mentors, resources, some of the keys to the journey. Do you want to hone in on one of those? We can deliver value to the listeners. What do you think would deliver the most value to the listeners?
Well, I think it's always, I like all of the questions because I think, I have a format, and if we can get to a little bit of all of them, I think.
Go for it.
That's kind of,
you want to go for kind of 10?
The format. So maybe just.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you have any mentors, and or resources, if you want to kind of combine them together, that you have used throughout your career, that have been really instrumental for you that you want to share?
Many mentors. I was actually nervous naming people because I'd forget someone and hurt someone's feelings. But I think that just that mentor relationship is essential. So anybody trying to make it, I got to imagine in any venture, but particularly in wine, have mentors. I have many, but I even have kind of like a formal, like a coach relationship that I meet twice a week for an hour from 7:30 to 8:30 Tuesdays and Fridays. So it's quite a commitment. I haven't always done that. That's probably been within the last, year or so. But a mentor relationship, I would say, is essential. And in particular, asking what you shouldn't do. Because the mentor ideally has already learned the pain of trialing. We have done many trials, and I didn't listen to the mentor, or I didn't listen to someone who was trying to mentor, and that often is very expensive, costly, painful, could put the business out if you're not careful. So yes, and then the other resource is like a group resource, so like an individual one-on-one, and it doesn't have to be formal, like just someone that you call. Is this a good idea? Should we be entering the wine seltzer category? What do you think about kosher wine? Having a mentor is super important, but then also a business group that's outside of the industry. And again, that doesn't have to necessarily be formal, but I've been a part of several groups, both in and outside of the wine industry, where it's kind of a peer group and you meet. I'm in one now called Vistage. That is somewhat formal, but where you're basically bouncing your ideas off of the group and they're then questioning your answers and holding you accountability. Like for me,
that's great.
Probably one of the most important pieces. And then my wife for sure I'd be lying on the floor somewhere if it wasn't for my wife and my brother. My brother runs all the sales. Mentors and a group would be the advice to the listeners. Particularly mentors, choose 2 or 3 of them that you check in with a couple times a year they're much older and have the battle scars of the industry.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I've tried to do that a little bit on my end. I'm kind of building a core group. We meet weekly. And then I have, last year when I knew I wanted to get more on the marketing side, I found this gentleman on LinkedIn. There's this company called Trend Hunter, and he was the CMO. And I was like, because Trend Hunter is all about innovation in every category possible. And I was like, this is the guy. And then I saw on his profile how literally his employees would go on and say he's the best, he's like the best boss ever. And I'm like, yeah, I need to get to know him. And we've been meeting every month since, and it's been a wonderful adventure with him. Just learning and just talking. Like, he taught me about Canva. On LinkedIn, I think it's because I was kind of looking for jobs, and Trend Hunter was on my radar. Right? They didn't have anything available.
Yeah, I do.
I just sent him a message on LinkedIn. I connected. He connected, and I just said, "Look, you're somebody that would be a great fit if you're open to, having if you'd want to mentor me." And he's like, "Yeah, let's do it," because he was kind of intrigued with what I was about to do, and he was like trying to help me connect with the people that he knew. It's those things are so important, but you do have to do the work sometimes, or you have to find that person you think that would fit with what you're trying to do.
Absolutely,
or
and
add
oftentimes
value.
it's those relationships that lead to an acquisition opportunity or work. Those types of relationships can just lead so many places. One of the CEO at our sales partner, Dave, who's been operating alcohol business for 25 plus years or something. He just has all the battle scars, and he can very quickly kind of cut to the chase on something and recommend something or steer you in a direction, and not take ownership of it, but help you avoid very costly, painful, sometimes fatal learning mistakes.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Fatal in the business. It's not fatal in
the other.
You died.
Right.
As long as the business doesn't die, as long as you stay in the game.
Yes, exactly. And that's a hard feat in itself, to do that. So what are any pain points you've experienced over the years that you've grown through this project?
The hardest ones are around relationships. The hardest pain points are around, either relationships ending or being very strained. Sometimes working together with someone at one stage of a business, it doesn't work at another stage. And so that can be very painful. I don't know how helpful that is to the listeners, but I that was the first thing that came to my mind. The other, just like real tactical, capital is always a pain point. Like how are you, revenue and capital. So just being very focused on the money aspect,
right.
Not losing sight of that. It's easy to just be very passionate, particularly for me, about the branding, about the wine, and kind of lose sight of profitability, revenue, cash flow. So those can be very painful. And then just like something that I find really interesting in the industry is distribution. There's, like I said early on, right, there's 800 distributors now, and there used to be 3,000, and there's 11,000 wineries, and there used to be 3,000.
Right.
So finding your way through distribution can be very challenging and painful, and we actually view it as kind of like the obstacle is the way type deal. Because it's such a challenge, we try to convert that into a gift, into like our edge. We really focus on those small and mid-sized wholesale relationships and just delighting them, being great partners. But so those would be the three main pain points: relationships, cash, and distribution.
Yeah, good points. Well said. And outside of orange wine, is there anything in the future you're seeing that we haven't mentioned?
Chillable red wine, red wine that you keep in the fridge. That's going to be big. That's coming for sure. We're seeing. What was that?
What varietals? Cool.
I think that like a red
blend.
think like Grenache or Barbera or lighter Zinfandel to some extent, potentially Pinot Noir. Like think Beaujolais style is kind of where we're going. Our thought is it's difficult for Americans to say Beaujolais, which is, like the fruity, often chilled. But we have some chillable red coming that we're very excited about. And it's giving the consumer permission to put a bottle of red wine into the refrigerator, and lighter, fruitier, low, no oak type deal, and very minimal tan. Not on that one. I love bubbles, but no, not on that one. Really just kind of lighter, fruitier red wine that you keep in the fridge, lower alcohol. So that's one chillable red wine. And we're seeing that on basically when we notice something on the menus of the coasts start to pop up, that's when we're kind of like, okay, that's coming. We saw that with orange.
That could be a good box wine,
just keep the box in the fridge. Yeah, that's a great idea. I'll take that back to. I know that there's some production around boxes.
Yeah.
But yes. And then Chenin Blanc. Make a prediction for Chenin. I petitioned to name our daughter Chenin, and I was vetoed. And our daughter was a beautiful Zadie name, but Chenin didn't make the cut. And then
that name. Where are you getting that from? Just curious. Is that like Lake County stuff?
Kind of Clarksburg is the mecca, we think. So we don't actually have a Chenin yet, but we might, and we're kind of watching that category. So predictions, orange, of course, right? In every grocery store in the next 10 years. Chillable red.
Yep, orange all in.
And you saw kind of, we've got our toe in Cabernet Franc.
That Cab Franc is amazing. It's really, really good. Really yummy. What about passions outside of work?
My own? What are mine?
Yeah. What do you
family
like to do?
time. I have 2 young children, 4 and 5 years old, and I love playing dominoes with them. Like with my 4-year-old and 5-year-old, they're very competitive. So family time for sure. I know that's kind of cliche, but it's very difficult for me to just kind of check out sometimes, and so I really, I love the family time, and I work hard to be present. Then I'm continuing.
It's important, especially when they're young like that. That's great.
Kind of random fun fact: I am super into pocket knives. I have like a collection of pocket knives. I always.
Really? Are you a Swiss Army guy?
I have a Victorinox somewhere, but like today, I don't know if you can hear it. It's like clicking. This is a Pena Apache, and I get into like the steels, and this is a sheep's foot blade. At any given time, there's a bunch of little pockets.
It's pretty. What do you like opening champagne bottles with those? Or
there's like a little knife community on Reddit and on YouTube. There's a pocket knife community, and we're really not using the knives to cut many things. It's a bunch of people that work in the offices. It's hilarious. Like nobody's out like
they just collect them.
And
we can't ruin this blade. It has to stay looking perfect.
Everybody gets into the action, like how well can it flick. This is oh my gosh, this is a front flipper. So you open it like a lighter, and you like very fidgety, and the steel hardness.
That's pretty cool.
What temperature was this steel hardened in? Is that micarta scales? I have a bizarre pocket. Yeah. I'm always checking out, like, is that guy, I think that guy's carrying a Spyderco over there. And my wife will be like, all right, calm down. Yeah.
There's a community for everyone. I love it. That's cool. Well, that seems like a pretty, good hobby. It's not something like you're not going skiing or you're not,
I try to run almost every day. I'm inspired by, the Brian Rosens who get up at 5:30 and work out, but I run almost every day. or I try to. And then I do like a meditation. Like I have like a meditation app that I do pretty regularly.
That's good.
Those are my hobbies. And I work a lot.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. But that's how you gotta stick to it and run the course, you know. And the good thing is it's fun, right? You're having fun.
I really do. And anybody else trying to play it, I'm rooting for.
Yeah.
And glad to help along the way.
I love that. One thing we didn't mention yet is our outfit. So we both have the Bonnie Doon Aliens, which it looks like he's got kind of a purple hue to him or purple color. So I was like, Luann, I need to wear purple. So I actually had on a purple plaid.
That's awesome.
I'm like, that's too much. Would we have that solid color? So you have, I don't know if it's dark blue or purple, but it goes great because you've got the two. Yeah, it's close. It's got purple in it. So it kind of, we actually matched pretty well.
The Dooniverse it's kind of fun. In mysterious
we did.
Ways.
That's right. The Dooniverse happened. We got Dooniverse.
And I'll just call it out. I'm always surprised at how few people reach out. If you want an alien on me, just email andrew@warroomcellars.com. If I don't answer right away, I probably missed the email, so bump it back up. But the aliens, they're like 5.5 feet, almost 6 feet tall. They're delightful. And it arrives in a compact little package. Fun. And you kind of unfold it. And the kids love them.
Kids love them.
Hello, my name is Bonnie Doon Vineyard.
They're fun. I love that story. I'm so glad I got to learn that story. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I know you got to go, but this has been really fun. Thank you for sharing the wine with me. Thank you for tasting the wines. It's always really fun to do that together with you and kind of talk about the story of each one of them. You've had an amazing career. Congratulations. I'm so excited to get to work with your brother. That's pretty cool. Not a lot of people can do that and get along, let alone like build an amazing business. And
thanks so
I wish
much,
you all the best of luck. Congratulations. And like I said,
all right.
Whatever I can do to help, let me know.
This is awesome. I'm a fan of Thirsty Thursdays. So I'm honored and grateful to be on the podcast.
Yay, thank you. Tell the world.
Great podcast. So thank you so much.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I really appreciate the feedback. All right. Well, with that, I guess I will wait till next time. We'll talk to you later. Okay. Bye-bye.
I'm speaking with Deborah Brenner, social entrepreneur, founder, and CEO of Women of the Vine and Spirits and Diverse Powered Brands. Deborah spent 20 years in TV and technology, and on a road trip to Napa and Sonoma, she became enamored with the women winemakers excelling in a male-dominated field. She was so taken by their stories, she wrote a book about them called Women of the Vine, Inside the World of Women Who Make, Taste, and Enjoy Wine, which is a Wine Spectator critical read. Little did she know it would become the precursor to her two organizations she has today. Deborah launched the Women of the Vine and Spirits Foundation in 2017 to further foster education and increase pathways for more women to enter or excel in the industry. Launched in 2023, Diverse Powered Brands is the premier centralized B2B global marketplace connecting diverse-owned, diverse-led, and diverse-made brands to buyers, wholesalers, and supplier diversity managers across the beverage, alcohol, and hospitality industry. I am so thankful for Deborah's contribution to women and our DEI initiatives for our industry. It's amazing what one person in a room can do for so many people. Tune in next Thursday and have a great week. This week's episode was produced by Fedora J Productions.